ransoms, like human packages tied up in strings. Black rage can come from all these kinds of things. Black rage is founded on blatant denial, squeezed economics, subsistence survival, deafening silence and social control. Black rage is founded on wounds in the soul. When the dogs bite, when the bee sings, when I'm feeling sad, I simply remember all these kinds of things, and then I don't feel so bad.
Let's give a round of encouragement to our dancers.
Now, many historians try to say that it was something that was inadvertently happened because someone was riding to tell them that you got killed. But I believe that the slave owners did not want the slaves to know that they were free. Yes, sir. And Mr. Lincoln, with good intentions, and I appreciate his intentions, because he said that his number one objective was to save this what? This human. It was not to save the slaves.
That's right.
So you don't need to give someone else the credit for our struggle, for our participation, for the abolitionists who fought for their freedom, who slaves who fought for their freedom. You need to understand that we were putting pressure on the slave owners to be free. It had become very dangerous to be a slave owner. Remember that term?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So there's always been resistance. Don't let people tell you that we was up under the mint julep tree or drinking tea or something like that. We was happy about slavery. We wasn't happy. Wasn't happy at all. So in Galveston, Texas, two and a half years later, we found out that Mr. Lincoln freed the slaves. But Mr. Lincoln didn't have an army in Galveston, Texas to go against the resistance of the slave owners and the militias to free the African people in Galveston, Texas, in the South as well. So Mr. Lee finally surrendered, General Lee, and he surrendered, and so the slaves finally got the word that they was free. Now this freedom, they have a long ways yet.
Peace and blessings, family. I thank you all for coming out on this afternoon. I am going to introduce a brother who has brought to light a lot of issues that have been affecting us as a people in our community within the education system. and even more as a Pan-African approach. His name is Dr. Umar Johnson. He is a nationally certified school psychologist who practices privately throughout Pennsylvania and lectures throughout the country. Dr. Umar is a blood relative of Frederick Douglass, the great Black abolitionist and orator. As a school psychologist, Dr. Umar evaluates children ages 3 to 21 in an effort to determine if they have educational disabilities and a need for special education. Umar is considered a national expert on learning disabilities and their effects on Black children, as well as an expert on helping schools challenge and ultimately lead to disruptive behavior disorders diagnosed in Black boys. Without further ado, I would like to bring to the stage so this brother can get it started, get this fire burning, and give you the information in which that you came here for. Dr. Umar Johnson.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening. I want to come down here. I don't know if you can see this. If you can't, you'll still be okay, because I'm going to repeat the questions. This presentation that I'm going to go over right now, and I might try to squeeze another one in with it, but I definitely want to start with this one. And it's called Understanding the Miseducation Machine, Everything You Need to Know About the Academic Process. This is a regular special education presentation that I put together for parents and people who work with our children, because I'm noticing that many of our young people are being miseducated, exploited, abused in school by way of miseducation, but also by way of mental health exploitation. The so-called ADHD and the so-called conduct disorders and the so-called opposition or defiant disorders. And this is largely happening because we don't know the law. The parents. We don't know what we can say no to. We don't know what we can say yes to. We don't know what the schools can, and should not be doing. So tonight, I want to give you guys a couple of tools you can use. Some wisdom and information so that you can do a better job fighting this miseducation machine until we build our own schools for our children. Because the goal is not to force mobile public schools to properly educate your children. They can, because public school was never started to properly teach African children. That was never a goal. It wasn't even started to properly educate white children, believe it or not. Public education grew out of a need to prepare people to work for corporations that was looking for cheap and available labor. It also grew out of a need to teach children what to think, but not how to think. So public school is a socialization tool. It's almost like a daycare center on steroids, where you basically condition the thinking so that the child goes to that place in society that was pre-prepared for them before they even showed up to school. The research says that a child's academic standing will mirror the standing of his or her parents in the larger society within 3 to 5 years after starting their education. That means what? I don't know if you can stay right there, brother. Yeah, 4, 5. Because you blind the folks. But you're good. Come on. So we need to understand how school's job is to create and maintain the American social order. That's why school is here. Not so your kids can go to college, so they can open up a business. That's not why you have public school. Public school is to keep you where the society says you're supposed to be, and to make sure you stay where society says you're supposed to be. We're going to make sure people who don't look like you do the teaching. Before school desegregation, the larger society cannot control how well-educated black children were, because we taught them ourselves. And we produced geniuses ourselves. See, when we talk about the gas masks, and when we talk about the self-lubricating engine, and when we talk about the helicopter, and when we talk about the cell phone, and when we talk about the internet, the refrigerator, we're talking about inventions that came out of the minds of black children who were taught by black people in schools that they control. So you have a different type of an African American child now, because as opposed to community education, you have public schooling. And the one thing you need to know about public schooling is that public schooling can only produce what the society allows it to produce. And because there's no longer a need for blacks in the American economic order, the purpose of public school is what? To prepare black boys for a life of prison and black girls for a life of poverty. Let me say it again. To prepare black boys for a life of prison and black girls for a life of poverty. Wrong charge, is it? Let's look at the statistics. Right now, today, only 1 out of every 4 black boys in this country will get a high school diploma. 1 out of 4. That's 25% success rate of American public schools. If only 1 out of every 4 Jewish American kids was getting a diploma, public school would stop until it was fixed. If only 1 out of every Italian or Irish, Polish, or any other European child, if only 1 out of every 4 white boys was graduating, public education would be put under arrest until it was fixed, overhauled. But because it's 1 out of every 4 black boys getting a high school diploma, business continues as is. Out of every 100 black baby boys born, only 3 of them will end up in college. Only 3 out of 100. Most states spend more, not most, every state spends more money on incarceration than they do on education. Now we got a lot of black men in jail. And a lot of people want us to think that they're in jail because they lack discipline. And that they go back to jail because they love crime. Well, white people commit just as much crime as black people. Probably more. But the black people go to jail because crime in law is a function of interest and motivation. And so the so-called justice system isn't interested or motivated in mass incarcerating white people. Their interest and motivation has always been in mass incarcerating black people.
Shit.
In fact, a white boy could go to jail, come out, and still find his way to a career, still find his way to a decent trade. I know, because I know many of them. They got all types of secret programs you don't even hear about to rehabilitate the white kids. But there's no such thing for the black ones. For the parents, if you haven't already, make sure you get a copy of my new book. It's at the back of the room, Psychoacademic Holocaust, the Special Education and ADHD Wars Against Black Boys. In my book, I'm going to teach you how to deal with disruptive behavior without giving your children medication. In my book, I'm going to teach you the definitions of all these disabilities they like throwing out at our children. In my book is a whole chapter on frequently asked questions. You're going to learn the whole special ed process, the whole ADHD process. If you read my book cover to cover, whether you have a son or a daughter, I promise you that if you do what I tell you to do, school system will not be able to make your child a statistic. I work with attorneys, most of whom are white, but I don't mind because it's for the sake of our children. I do a lot of due process work. I do a lot of special ed case review. I do a lot of independent evaluations. I train teachers, principals, superintendents. That's what I do. I travel the country on this crusade to improve the education of our young people until we build our own schools for them. So if any parent here has any issues with your child after today, my contact information is in my book. You can email me the problem, and I'll respond back to you, telling you how to deal with that problem. Ain't that something? White folks come up with labels, and you go crazy over the thing. ADHD, special ed, conduct disorder. Ideas! There's no blood test that shows that he's retarded. There's no CAT scan that proves ADHD. It's an idea. Start over. Come on, grandfather. Come on. Pants sagging at 65. Kicking Timberlands and Nike. Old school pen. We got to change this, y'all. Can children pray in school?
No, sir. No, sir.
Actually, they can. As long as they are not disrupting the educational process. Let me give you an example. Your children are Christian, and all the Christian kids at lunchtime go into a corner and pull out a Bible and read and hold hands and pray before they eat. Legal. They out in the playground and all the Jehovah's Witness kids come together and pull out a watchtower and start studying watchtower for their 30-minute recess. It's legal. Can the principal get involved? No. Can the teacher get involved? No. None of the employees. But if the kids of their own free will do something with each other of the same religion, it is not a violation of school policy. Can the teacher use the Bible in the classroom? Technically, she can. As long as it's being used to serve an educational function. In other words, I'm an English teacher. I'm bringing in the Bible and the Quran and the Torah because I want my children to see how the Quran and the Bible and the Torah are excellent examples of how you use symbolism and allegory and prose in your literature. I can use it. Now, if I start going around asking people if they can say it, now I just broke the name. Y'all see the difference? Yes, sir. Can the school tell your child how to dress? Sure, if they have a uniform discipline code. Now, can they tell your child how to dress if there is no uniform code? It depends if what your child is wearing is disrupting the school function. Let me give you an example. Your daughter goes to an elementary school with no school uniform, but she built like Serena Williams. And she coming in with a small mini skirt, cleavage hanging out. All the boys running around saying, look, 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 they can't focus. Your daughter dressing like that is disrupting the school function. So as the principal, I'm gonna call you up and say, bring us some clothes, so she got to go home. I can legally do that because the way she's dressed is disrupting my school. Let me give you an example. Your son go to a black school, all black school in the hood, and he got a t-shirt on that say Black Power. Can he be sent home for that? Probably not. Why? Because wearing a t-shirt that says Black Power in an all-black school ain't gonna disrupt nothing, is it? But if your son go to a white private school and he coming in with a shirt that say Black Power, they can call you up and say, come get this little revolutionary before you get expelled. Because all the white kids ready to beat him up. It all depends on whether what they're doing is disrupting school function or not. Can the principal go in your child's locker if they think they got some contraband in their locker? Can they go into your child's locker in high school? Yes, they can. Why? Who owns the locker? The school district. Now, if the police come into the school, can the police go into the locker? Only if they have a reasonable suspicion. Okay? Excuse me. Police need probable cause. The principal only needs reasonable suspicion. So if I'm the principal, I got a reasonable suspicion that he got weed in my school, I can go with it. But if the cop comes, cop can't go with it unless he got probable cause. The police are held to a higher level of the law than the school official. I think his son got a gun in his car. He drives to school, I think he got a gun. Can I go in that car? If it's on school property, I can. But if you park across the street from the school, I can't go in the car, but I can call the cops and they make a determination. These are called your educational rights. What's something I need all y'all to tell y'all kids when y'all go home tonight? If you are ever called to the school office and questioned about anything that could potentially get you suspended,
suspended or expelled, tell the principal, dean of students, vice principal, classroom teacher, I do not feel comfortable answering any questions until my mother or father are present.
Okay.
Did y'all hear that? Because what they're doing is they're making y'all kids talk, not telling them that if you say the wrong thing, you're going to be let out of handcuffs. So a lot of y'all kids are going to jail when they had no idea that what they were speaking on could lead to arrest. So you got to tell your kids to keep their mouth shut. Very important that you do that. And if the principal tells your child, well, I just spoke to your mother, she said it's okay for you to talk. Until my mother tells me. And when I get my mother on the phone, I'm going to tell her I want her here and present. Why do we have so many autistic black children? A lot of black kids diagnosed with autism. Why? Because of the immunizations. Giving your children immunizations.
That's right.
I'm not going to tell you not to immunize your child, but I'm going to tell you to be careful and pick and choose what you do. My youngest daughter, she's not immunized. I didn't want it, and her mother didn't want it, because I don't see a need for that. Black kids don't need shots. They come into the world with the immune system that's put in them by God, and it works fine without any help from the Lord of health. So then you say, well, if I don't give them shots, they can't go to school. Who told you that lie? That's right. That's right. There's kids in every state in America except 2 who can go to school without immunizations.
That's right.
The only 2 states where you must be immunized in order to go to public and charter school is Mississippi and West Virginia. You live in Alabama. Your children do not need shots to go to school. All you have to get is an immunization exemption form from your medical doctor, where you can download it yourself from the county board of health. You sign it, you take it to the school secretary, and life goes on. They do not need shots to get an education. Now you will tell me what the principal said. The principal been lying to you for years. You got to tell the principal that I know that that's not the law. And what should you always do whenever you think the school is lying to you about something? What should you do? Say, can you put that in writing and sign it, please? You told me my son can't come back to school unless he has medicine. Can you please put that in writing and sign it? You said I got to sit next to my child in school because he has behavior problems. So in order for him to get an education, I got to be with him. Can you put that in writing and sign your name, please? Did I just hear you tell me that you've been using lunchroom aides as classroom substitutes because y'all can't find a teacher? Can you put that in writing? Did you just tell me that my child is in special ed and I told you that he needs extra tutoring because y'all not doing a good job helping him and you said y'all can't afford it? Can you put that in writing, please? And they're not going to put it in writing because they know that it's illegal to say that to you. You got to start holding them to the fire. You cannot be scared of school personnel. And you also got to stop thinking they care about your kids more than you. They only with your kid for 1 year. You got them for the rest of their life. You better remember who's in charge. We at 7:40. What time we got to stop? 8 on the dot? Okay. We got 20 more minutes. Can the school reduce your child's grades based on behavior? Your son got an A in math, and he's bad as hell. So I'm going to drop his grade from an A to a B. Is that legal?
No.
In the United States of America, you cannot reduce the report card grade based on behavior. Do schools do it?
Yes.
All the time, because they know you ain't gonna say nothing about it. The next time you find out your child's grade was reduced because of behavior, you need to protest that grade and get it changed. That's why on the report card, you always have 2 grades: academic, and then there's a behavior grade, the numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's why the behavior grade is separate, because you cannot change the academic grade based on the behavior grade. If your child is 3, 4, 5 years old, if your child is 3, 4, 5, or even 6, it's not time for kindergarten, but you see that they have a problem. You see some autism. You see some speech impairment. You see some deafness. You see some blindness. Do you wait to kindergarten? No. Special education starts at 3 years old. If your child is at least 3, you can get them special ed support before kindergarten. Now your question to me is, Dr. Umar, I thought you said you don't like special ed. Why you want me to put my preschooler in there so young? Because if they need the help, give it to them. Because if you help them from 3 to 5, you might close the gap. And by the time kindergarten starts, they might not need the extra help if you help them now. But some of us want to act like we can't tell, he can't hear our one ear. We try to act like we don't know that she can't say 2 straight words. No parent wants to admit that your child got delayed. We know that. But if you really love your child, the sooner you admit that something ain't right and get it checked out, it's better than not at all. And you can always fax me the report. In fact, I'm going to give y'all my fax number right now. You got a pen or a cell phone, you put it right in there. This is my fax number. Come straight to me, don't nobody see me. My fax number, then I'm going to give you my phone number and my email address. My fax number is area code 215-827-5404. 215-827-5404. Call me up, Dr. Umar. I just sent you a fax from this phone number because I need to know the area code you faxed it from because I get it from all over the world. Okay, not only do I gotta help y'all, I gotta help the black parents in London, England, all through the United Kingdom, where I'll be speaking next month because they got special ed over there too. That's right. And I gotta help the black parents living in Canada because they got special ed up there too. And I gotta help the black parents living in the U.S. Virgin Islands, St. Croix and St. Thomas and St. Kitts, and the ones living in the British Virgin Islands because they got special ed in the damn Caribbean now. So I'm constantly doing what I can because there ain't enough black psychologists out there helping y'all. And why not? Why am I one of the only ones doing this kind of work to make sure y'all know what's going on? Because you make a whole lot more money by keeping your mouth shut and going along with the deal. Y'all probably got some black psychologists right here in Mobile who hustle the hell out your kids. Diagnosing with stuff, writing reports that ain't true, and doing all types of other garbage because they get paid for it. It's big money in this. Real big money in it. Yeah. Become a psychologist and you ain't got no scruples, you ain't got no principles, you'd probably be a millionaire. As one principal once told me, he said, I don't understand you. You're the youngest one in the school district, Philadelphia. You're probably going to be the director of special ed in school psychological services by the time you're 35. Why are you making all these ripples in the damn water? Your life is already ordered, boy! And I had to tell that nigga that I did not become a school psychologist to pimp black children.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
School psychologist to help black children. See, I was born in their broken home, 8th and Susquehanna, Jill Scott, Bill Cosby territory. And it was a blessing to have been born, because I never developed the habit of loving money. So for me, it's easy to say, no thank you. But some of us, some of you here, y'all love money more than people. And people who love money more than people are people you need to be around. And you got to teach your children to be loyal to principles and not profit.
That's right.
Because if I was loyal to profit, well, I could be doing damn good right now. I'm not bad now. But I could be so much better if I want to just sell y'all out and stop this. You know how many emails I get from psychologists wanting to know why the hell I had to tell y'all that the schools get extra money every time I put your kids in special ed? They say, Umar, why did you have to tell them that? Was that necessary? Yes, necessary. You mean to tell me special ed been around for 38 years and I'm the first psychologist to let black people know that it's a damn business? I'm the first one to tell you that whenever I send your kid to special ed, the school district gets twice as much money? Wow. Let me break it down to you. What grade you in, Princess? You going to the 7th grade. Let's take Princess, hypothetically. She's in the 7th grade. Mother gets her evaluated and put her in special ed. She got 8th grade, 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, 12th, 5 more years, right? The minute I say she got a learning problem, let's say, how much money they give per pupil, Mobile public schools, how much they spend on the child? A year. What y'all, 7,000, 5,000 per kid? 60? About 7, let's say 7. So right now, she's worth $7,000. All the kids in this auditorium are worth $7,000 a year. The minute one of those psychologists say she got a learning disability, she ain't worth 7 no more. She's worth 14. Did y'all hear me? And that extra 7, they get that every extra year. So 7,000 times 5 more years is $35,000 extra on top of the regular money. And that's just for her. How about 200 black kids in special ed? How about 500 black kids in special ed? Special education is a multi-million-dollar establishment for making money off the same kids you know you never taught in the first place. Because you know that's my #1 diagnosis. Not SLD.